Take your seat, we're going to dig a little deeper. Notice here in verse 25, after they had examined him, King Agrippa, his Festus, and all of these folks listening to the case of Paul, and they said, and when I found that he had committed nothing deserving of death, nothing deserving of death, and that he himself had appealed to Augustus, Caesar Augustus, I decided to send him. He said he wanted to go to Caesar. I decided I was going to send him. Nothing deserving of death was found in Paul. Nothing deserving of death was found in Paul. Then look over in chapter 26, verse 3. It talks about here, especially because you are an expert in all customs and questions which have to do with the Jews. Therefore, I beg you to hear me patiently. He's talking about King Agrippa here because King Agrippa is an expert in Jewish customs. He's an expert because he's a Jew himself. He is, in fact, he's the great-grandson of the notorious Herod the Great. Agrippa was a Jew, and he had gained considerable influence among the Jewish community. And then I want you to see, notice on down in verse 11 here, he said, and I punished, Paul is giving his testimony before them. He said, I used to punish these so-called Christians themselves. He said, often in every synagogue, and compelled them to blaspheme. And being exceedingly enraged against them, I persecuted them even to foreign cities. Paul chased Christians. Paul persecuted Christians. That's why I'm talking about the boomerang effect. Paul used to do to other people what's now being done to him. This thing has come home to roost. Paul used to do this to other folks, now it's being done to him. Paul has given his testimony, saying that I was the chiefest of Jews. And I was the one getting permission from the Sanhedrin court, and I was prosecuting folks, bringing them, and he said, and I was consenting unto these folks' death. Notice what he said in verse 10. He says, this I also did in Jerusalem, and many of the saints I shut up in prison. Now he's in prison himself, boomerang effect. Having received authority from the chief priests, and when they were put to death, I cast my vote against them. This is Paul talking. Paul is admitting himself, I used to be who you are. He says, I'm the one that was persecuting Christians. Now I'm a Christian, and now I'm being persecuted. I'm the one who used to throw them in jail. Now I'm in jail. He's dealing with the boomerang effect, And so notice that we see how he had persecuted so many of them. He had persecuted them, and now he is reaping what he had sown against them. We call this the law of retribution. You know what the law of retribution says? It says that every wrong action or crime brings its own punishment in accordance to the law of retribution. It's sort of what other folks might call the law of causation, or the law of action and reaction, or the law of compensation and the law of retribution. All of these all operate together. You know what this law essentially says? That he who robs another man robs himself. Isn't that interesting? That he who hurts another man hurts himself first, because hurt people hurt people. And he who cheats another cheats himself first. They are cheaters who cheat others. That means that they've already cheated themselves first. You ought to feel sorry for people when they do wrong against you, because they themselves are a victim of something that has gone wrong in their own life. They're already a victim. Every wrong action causes punishment, first in the inner nature or the soul, and externally in circumstances in the form of pain or misery or loss or failure or misfortune or disease. But when they cause the pain, something has already happened and gone wrong in them. And so this caused that. So whenever you see people who are out here stealing, breaking in and stealing your stuff, something has already gone wrong in them. They're already unhappy. And do you think that because they got your CD player, they walked off with your iPad or your iPod? Do you think that that's going to keep them satisfied, that they're going to be happy now? They will never be satisfied. They got to steal again. Because then they're stealing, trying to get a fix, to feel happy for a few minutes. And then they got to go back and do it again. And they themselves are victims. And we ought to really feel sorry for them, because something has gone wrong in them, and it's caused them to even do that. And they get the boomerang effect. And they do one thing and they do something else. It's amazing how it takes them oftentimes deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. But whatever you sow, you reap what you sow. See, there's a scripture that says it, something to this effect. It says it to this effect, that if you dig one ditch, you may as well dig two. Because the ditch you meant for somebody else just may be meant for you. Now let me just say that in the parable of the sower and the seed in Matthew chapter 13, the sower sowed seed on shallow ground, and then on stony ground, and then on thorny ground, and then on good ground. But here's the key I want you to get. The sower kept on sowing. The sower kept on sowing. You see, that was the secret to his success, is that he kept on sowing. He kept on sowing. He kept on sowing. He kept on sowing. If you keep on sowing, guess what will work in your favor? The law of averages. If you do it to enough people, if you do it to enough, have you all ever gotten like junk mail through this stuff in the mail at home? You know why people send you that? 98% of the people don't even respond to that. They do what I do, is they throw it in the trash. And they get angry because our mailbox has been cluttered with that garbage. But do you know that 2% of the people pay attention, and actually 1 or 2% will actually order something? So if they mail it out to enough people, they'll get enough orders to keep them in business. So if you mail out 200,000 pieces and you get 2% return, you're going to get about 4,000 orders. You know, maybe 2,000 to 4,000 orders. And that keeps them satisfied. And then they'll send it out maybe to 1 million people. You know, they still get, I mean, if you send it to 1 million people, and if you don't get but 20,000 orders out of that, it'll make them happy. Enough for them to send it off to another 1 million people. And they're doing it because the law of averages is working for them. What do you think would have happened if this sower had sown the seed on the shallow ground, and you know, then the birds came and ate it up, and he never went on to sow into another kind of ground? That's why you can't give up. After he sowed on the shallow ground, he went on and sowed on a different kind of ground, and that one was rocky. And thank God that he didn't stop there. He wasn't discouraged. He went on and sowed it on some thorny ground. And then he finally got to some that was good ground. So he was only saying, you know what, out of all of that sowing, only 25% of it was really productive. But suppose he had stopped halfway, he wouldn't have gotten to his blessing. I cannot tell you how many people get so discouraged in the second or third quarter of their life before they get to the good ground. Why would we let ourselves get frustrated and throw away the reward of the good ground? You've been working, you got the habit down now. At least those folks on the shallow ground, you know, you deal with some shallow people in your life, but at least the shallow people help you to appreciate the deep people when you meet them. You know, you got to have some thorny people so that it helps you to really appreciate somebody sweet. I mean, thank God for all of the jerks that you met in your life earlier, because they give you a deeper, a richer appreciation for good people who might have a few little issues. But it's about the law of average. It's about the law of average. The principle here is to keep on sowing, keep on sowing, keep on sowing. Some things that you do are not going to produce anything. And you got to keep on until you find a ground that does. But don't stand there and waste your time sowing on the same ground. Move to new territory. If this is not producing, go to a different territory, come to a different territory, come to a different territory. I know some people in the music business who tried their best here in America and their music wouldn't take off, and they went to Europe and whoop, there it is. Found a niche of somebody who absolutely loved their stuff over in Europe and thought it was the best thing since sliced bread, and couldn't get it off the ground here in America. I commend people who have pertinacity, that won't stop because these boys ain't nobody buying this out here. One man went to Africa, sent by a shoe company here in America, and he got there and said, there's no potential here. Nobody here wears shoes. Nobody here wears shoes. Called headquarters, said, I'm coming back. The other salesman that they went, he said, woo, dog, if we have hit the jackpot, black gold, Texas tea. I mean, he said, nobody here has shoes. The market is wide open. We're going to make a killing. And they were looking at the same thing. Are you listening? Two men looked out at a prison cell. One saw dirt, the other saw stars. It depends on the direction of your gaze, whether you're going to be looking down or looking up, and you know what you're going to expect out of that. But you got to keep on. I'm just telling you, you got to keep on keeping on. Wouldn't it have been something if the folks walking around Jericho had walked around first day? God told them, shut your mouth. Don't you open your mouth. For 7 days, don't you open your mouth. Because you know what we would have done. I done already seen this. My feet getting tired. It's hot out here. I ain't side of it. I'm going to just sit here and wait for you because y'all coming back around anyway. I'm so glad that God told them, shut your mouth. Don't you open your mouth. I'm just telling you, sometimes our mouths can be our own worst enemy. May I just remind you of this? Loose lips sink ships. Because people are mealy-mouthing and griping and complaining and belly aching about something. And God said, just keep your mouth closed. Keep your mouth closed. It looked like you're not making any territory. But keep going. Keep going and keep sowing. 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 I don't care how many people are nasty to you. Keep on being kind to other folks. Don't let mean-spirited, ungrateful people stop you from being you. You keep doing you. There are going to be some folks that won't appreciate you, that'll cuss you out and so forth. I mean, I held the door for a woman. The woman told me, she said, I opened my own doors. I still open doors for real women. I mean, if she wanted to be a man, didn't want the man to open a door for her, just knock yourself out. But I still open doors. I didn't let the sour puss experience of one woman keep me from holding doors for other women that I see. You know what I'm saying? And then I've had so many women that say, thank you, thank you, thank you. You have to keep going and keep sowing. Keep going and keep sowing. Keep going and keep sowing. And the law of averages will tell you that some people will be nice, will listen to you. I remember my dad used to send us downtown. We used to hand out flyers advertising our business and so forth. That would be somebody to hand somebody a flyer. Some people would just take it and throw it down on the ground right in my face. I'm like, at least, I was a child. I'm like, at least get around the corner and throw it away. But just, some people look at it and they just throw it down, just smash it up under their foot like they were trying to put out a cigarette. And, but you know what I kept doing? Even when I saw that, I handed it to the next person. And I handed it to the next person. And we would hand it to thousands of people. Thousands. My dad would print up 200,000 of those things at a time. Give us a bundle. We knew when that bundle was, another bundle was right there. You know what we kept doing? We kept going and kept sowing. We kept going and we kept sowing. We kept going and we kept sowing. Salesmanship does not begin until the customer says no. It really doesn't. So you have to keep going and you have to keep sowing. You have to change the territory, change the kind of ground that you're dealing with, but you keep going and you keep sowing. You have to keep going and you have to keep sowing, because the law of retribution, here's the law of reaping and sowing, this boomerang effect, that you reap what you sow, not what you intended to sow. You don't reap what you pray, you reap what you sow. You reap what you sow. You reap what you sow. Now here's the thing that you have to do in the midst of that. Can I give you a real key here? You have to discipline your disappointments. You have to discipline your disappointments, because your disappointments can put you out of the game. You honestly have to discipline your disappointments. You have to discipline your disappointments. And just tell yourself, you know, they may not appreciate it right now, but keep on doing. Keep going and keep sowing. Keep going and keep sowing. Keep going and keep sowing. Don't let disappointment stop you from doing what is right and doing what is productive. Do not let disappointments keep you from doing what's right. I cannot tell you the number of people who have become discouraged because disappointment says, you know, they're not going to appreciate it, but is it right? That's the question. Is it right? Not is it appreciated. The question is it right? You have to ask the right question. Is it right? Is what I'm doing right? Is what I'm doing right? Not is it appreciated. Is it right? Is it right? Is it right? I just feel like it's right for me if I'm coming through to hold the door for someone else, whether they appreciate it or not. It doesn't matter whether they appreciate it. The question is it right? Is it right? You have to discipline your disappointments. And you know the way that helps me? I talk about them on the inside. It makes me feel so wonderful. Now, I may not vocalize it, but I have a field day up here. We have a whole conversation. I put this funny little voice on, and it allows me to keep going and keep sowing. And that works for me. That works for me. It works for me to keep going and keep sowing, because that lady that blessed me out for holding the door for her, she would have had a fit had she heard what I said. But I had a real picnic. I got tickled on the inside. Somebody else might have gotten mad, and I was sitting there thinking that people were going to think I was crazy because I was about to break out into a hysterical laughter. And it was hilarious. But you have to do what you have to do to keep going and keep sowing and discipline your disappointment, so that your disappointments do not stop you from doing what is right. We do it not because it is appreciated, not because people thank us for it. We do it because it's the right thing to do. Keep going and keep sowing because it's the right thing to do. Remember now, whenever you do this, just with the law of averages, you win some and you learn some. You win some and you learn some. You win some and you learn some. And you learn what doesn't produce. You learn not to spend a great deal of your time here because this is not productive. This is not a good use of your time. So you learn something about the shallow ground, about the thorny ground, about the stony ground. You learn something. You learn what does not produce. You have to learn to discern the difference between pretenders and producers. Have you ever met a pretender? They got all of the fruits of people who are producers, but they are pretenders. They drive the same car, but this one is mortgaged to the hilt. I mean, really, you can't go by the look. So you have to be able to discern the pretenders from the producers. You have to find producers are folks that roll up their sleeve and go to work, and they keep going and they keep sowing. They keep going and they keep sowing. You know, because it is the right thing to do and it is productive. Not because it's appreciated, not because it's rewarded, but it's because it's the right thing to do and it's productive in the long run. Notice verse 24 here of chapter 26. Now, as he thus made his defense, Festus said with a loud voice, Paul, you're beside yourself. Much learning is driving you mad. Now, you know Paul was a well-educated man. They thought Paul had lost his mind. Isn't that interesting? They thought Paul had actually lost his mind. Now let me say this to you. just to bring perspective to you, practically every visionary that I know at some point is assumed to be a little crazy. No, really, if you got a vision, if you got a dream by which you're living, if you got certain God-given ambitions that he's placed in your heart, somebody is going to say that you're crazy. They're going to misunderstand you. They thought that Walt Disney was crazy when he had this whole idea for Disney World. And when they dedicated it, and he had already gone and transcended this life, and one of the people at the dedication said to his wife, Mrs. Disney, that they said, "Isn't it a shame that Walt Disney didn't live to see this?" And she said, "Oh, but he did see it." She said, "He saw it first. He saw it when folks laughed at him. When people laughed." You'd be surprised. Every visionary is looked at to be a bit wild, that you're biting off more than you can chew, and it's like that's too big, it's too lofty. Because people want to judge your dream by their faith. And it's not right when somebody else has a $10 faith and they're judging a $1 million vision with a $10 faith, and they can't put their hands around it, and you got to be crazy. You see, all of the visionaries, every revolutionary who's ever changed the world was thought to be crazy. If folks believed in them, if we believed in them, we would have bought stock in them before they became anything. I wish I'd known that about the young man that started Facebook. I'd have given him $20 to buy some stock, or something. But if somebody start telling us about something out in cyberspace, about creating some type of a global community by which people from all over the world, we had never seen that. We had no concept of it. And so when a visionary gets it, they seem crazy, off balance, some wow. They just, that their minds are out here. And some things that Steve Jobs did, he's a bit loony. All the way to the bank. But every visionary who's got a vision for building a great business, building a great kingdom and government, building a great ministry, is deemed to be a bit off because they seem too fanatical. But they are determined, because they believe in it, to keep going and keep sowing. Keep going and keep sowing. And they told Paul, you're beside yourself. Paul was not beside himself. Paul had set himself on fire. He had set himself on fire. I want you to notice, Paul was so passionate in what Jesus had done in his life. Paul was so incredibly passionate about what Jesus had done in his life, that when he's testifying here before King Agrippa is so moved by Paul's testimony, he could feel the authenticity of this man's words. He knew that this man believed what he was saying. I've had individuals of other faiths that I have shared my story with that have looked at me and they said, "I can tell that you believe what you're saying." Of course I believe it. It's the real deal. But King Agrippa, when he heard Paul proclaiming his testimony about how he met Jesus and this Damascus Road experience and what happened to him and how he used to persecute, and he's saying that this Jesus said, "Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me?" And he said, "Who are you?" And he said, "I'm Jesus of Nazareth, whom you persecute. Why are you doing this? Why are you kicking against the goads?" And he's telling this testimony with this fire and this conviction in his heart, even to a king. And you know what King Agrippa tells him? King Agrippa says, "Paul," he says, "you almost persuaded me to become a Christian." He said, "I can just tell that there's so much life in your word." No, notice what he said then, verse 28. Then Agrippa said to Paul, "You almost persuade me to become a Christian. You almost got me." He said, "Man, had you gone, and man, had you pulled it at the end, man, had you gone into a hoop, man," he said, "I'd have been at the altar." He said, "Man, you almost had me." He said, "You almost had me. That was on the edge of my seat. I was ready to give my heart to Jesus." See, Agrippa is a Jew, just like Paul was a Jew. And Paul shared his story so passionately. He said, you almost persuaded me to become a Christian. You almost got me. And then really both of these men, Governor Festus and King Agrippa, notice what they said in verse 32. Then Agrippa said to Festus, this man might have been set free if he had not appealed to Caesar. God said, there's a dimension of my glory and prophetic power that I want to demonstrate to you and through your life. Paul, I'm still writing your story. And just because I ended one chapter does not mean that your story is over. He said, I'm getting ready to write a fascinating chapter in your life's book. And had he had all of the charges dismissed, it would have changed the story. But God somehow calculates into our story all of our accusations and problems and dead ends, all of the things that frustrate us, break our hearts. And he said, I'm going to show my power, my glory in the midst of this.
Thank you for watching Power for Living with Bishop Dale C. Bronner. Join us again next time for Power for Living, where revelation is power. Power for living.